Okay, so we're going to start at the beginning of chapter 10. This is Friendship with God and Uncommon Dialogue. And this is Neil speaking. A graveyard is perhaps an unlikely place to find enlightenment, but that's where I found it. A piece of it, anyway. I had gone to Jay's funeral service at St. Anne's Church in Annapolis, but I arrived late and found just about every seat in the place had been taken. Half of the city must have been there. And I don't know why, but I felt somehow out of place with all the public mourners. I guess I wanted a private moment just between us. I had lost a very good friend. We'd become that. He'd been like an older brother to me. So I left the church and I decided to have my personal service for Jay, my own private goodbye, at his gravesite later that day. 2 hours later, when I guessed that everyone would have been to the grave and left, I made my way back to St. Anne's Cemetery. My guess was right. There was no one there. I set out to find Jay's grave and say my farewell, except that I couldn't find the gravesite anywhere. I looked at row after row of headstones, but no Elmer J. Jackson Jr. I double-backed again and looked again. Nothing. I was becoming frustrated. Maybe I should have stuck with the funeral party after all. Had I gotten the wrong cemetery? Was I just not looking in the right place? I really wanted to say goodbye to Jay. I really wanted this moment. And now it was starting to drizzle. The rain had come up. It looked like a storm was brewing. "Come on, Jay," I shouted inside my head. "Where are you?" You know how when you're in a traffic light and you want it to change and it isn't changing and you shout, "Come on, change, damn it," inside your head? That was what I was doing here. You don't really expect the light to change right then, right there in that instant. And you don't really expect to get an answer in a cemetery. In fact, I think you'd rather not. Well, I did. And it scared the wits out of me. "Over here." That's all he said. But it was his voice. Jay's as crisp and clear as a bell. It came from directly behind me. And I whipped around so fast I almost left my shoes. But there was more, and I'd heard him over here. This time it came from further away, in the direction I was now facing, but up and over a small knoll. A chill ran up my back. It was Jay's voice. It wasn't someone who sounded like Jay. It was Jay. But there was no one there. So then I thought that maybe a groundskeeper had wandered in. Maybe he saw me looking around and guessed that I was searching for a freshly turned grave. Maybe he was someone who did sound a lot like Jay. But there was just no one around. I really wanted there to be someone around. I really did. Because this voice was not something I was imagining. I heard it as loudly and clearly as I heard the beating of my heart a moment later. I rushed over to the knoll. Maybe there's somebody on the downside and I just can't see them from here, I reasoned. I found a vantage point at the top of the knoll and I looked around. No one. Then I heard the voice again. Softer now, the words spoken quietly, as if he were right behind me. "Over here." I turned around, slowly this time. I was frightened, I'll admit it. But fright soon turned to amazement. Jay's headstone was square in front of me. I was standing on his grave. I jumped off that pile of earth as if I'd been standing on an alligator. Sorry, I apologized. I don't know who I thought I was talking to. Yes, I did. I was talking to Jay. I knew then that he was there. I knew that he had survived his death and that he called me to his grave for a final private moment. My eyes filled with tears. I sat on the ground and I rested there for a while, catching my breath, looking at Jay's name, freshly carved in the marble. I waited for him to say something else. He didn't. Well, I said after a while, that's what's it like being dead? I was trying to lighten the moment. Instead, I saw lightning in the distance. The storm was getting closer. Listen, Jay, I said in my head, I want to thank you for all that you did to me and for all that you are or were for everyone. You've been such an inspiration to so many people. You've touched so many lives in such a kind and caring way. I just wanted to say that thank you, and I'm going to miss you, Jay. I began to quietly sob, and then I received my last communication from Jay. It wasn't in the form of words this time. It was a feeling that lovingly swept over me, like someone laying a cape over my shoulders and gently squeezing my arms. I can't describe it further. There are no words. But I just knew that Jay was going to be all right, that he was all right, and that I would be all right too. And I understood that everything right then was perfect. It was just the way it should be. I stood up. Okay, Jay, I get it. I smiled. Nothing is impossible. As I turned and walked back down the hill, I could have sworn I heard that chuckle. You two shared a beautiful moment there. Thank you. He was there, wasn't he? I did hear him, didn't I? And he did hear me. Yes. There is a life after death, isn't there? Life is eternal. Death does not exist. I'm sorry to even ask that question. I should by now never doubt these things. Never? Never. A true master like the Buddha, a master like Krishna, like Jesus, never doubts. What about Father, thou hast forsaken me? Well, that was, I don't know. I don't know what that was. Doubt. My son, that was doubt. If only for a moment, if only for a second. So know this, my friend. Every master visits the garden, his garden of Gethsemane. There, she asks the questions every master asks. Could this be true? Have I made this all up? Is this really God's will that I drink from his cup? Or could it pass from my lips? I have some of those questions sometimes, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. It would be easier for you, I know, if you're not talking to me right now. In many ways, it would be easier. You could release all this, let this go, all this responsibility that you've taken on to bring a message to the human race and to help change the world, all this public attention you've drawn to yourself, which has placed your life in such a spotlight. Yet I see that it is your will that you go on. It is your will that all that has occurred in your life should occur. All the incidents of your life have led you to this moment. You were given a perfect mother and a perfect father to prepare you for this assignment. You have given yourself the perfect family situation and the perfect childhood. You were given raw talents in communication and the chance to develop those talents. You were put in, and others were put there with you in just the right way. That is why you met Jay Jackson and why he had such a profound impact on your life. It is why you have worked among blacks in Baltimore, Southern whites, the natives of Africa, the people of Ecuador. It's why you've joined friendship in conversation with oppressed and fearful people who have nothing, living under totalitarian regimes and with famous, world famous movie stars and television personalities and political living in your own country. Nothing has happened to you by accident. Nothing has occurred by chance. It has been called forth, all of it, that you may experience and know what you choose to experience and know, that you may experience the grandest version of the greatest vision you ever had about who you are. Now that is where we were. Now, do we want to do a discussion before we move on? Anyone? Okay, well, nobody said anything.
Wait, I'm saying something. Can you repeat those questions that it was shortly back where it was when something like, is this true? Did I make this up? Is this my will? What was that series of questions?
Okay, hang on, let me find it. All right, this is God speaking. So Neil says, I should never question. And God says, never. And then Neil says, never. A true master like the Buddha, master like Krishna, like Jesus, never doubts. God says, what about, quote, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Neil says, well, I don't know. I don't know what that was. And God answers, doubt, my son. That was doubt. If only for a moment, if only for a second. So know this, my friend. Every master visits his garden of Gethsemane. And there she asks the question of every master asks, could this be true? Have I made this all up? Is it really God's will that I drink from this cup? Or could it pass from my lips? Say again?
Hello?
Yeah? Discussion?
I had a couple of experiences, maybe about 30 years ago. I was in a graveyard in Halifax, which is an old city on the east coast of Canada, in Nova Scotia. And I've read about people who are buried and their graves smell like perfume, but I'd never ever experienced it. And my children were tiny. I had my daughter in a stroller and my son was walking. And I smelled this amazing fragrance. in the cemetery where there wasn't one flower anywhere because it was winter. And I didn't know who was responsible for it, so I went over and checked. And I could more or less tell, but that was very different from what Neil's experienced here. And yet it was unmistakable. It was flowers in winter. Now, I would have thought I was losing my mind if my kids were older and it was summer. But at that point, I was pretty certain.
Beautiful. Anything more, or shall we move on? Angela?
Yeah, well, I have one more thing to say. My mother had a fit of rage after she died. And she used to have this, whatever you call it, that you hang over the rear view mirror in cars. It's a sign for handicap parking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it's called. So after she died at the hospital, we were following the hearse, and didn't she take that thing off and smash it on the front? You know, like she said she was done with being disabled, thank you. It was unmistakable.
Yeah, Linda, I was just thinking, where we were saying about, Neil said, am I making all this up? This has really happened, or am I making all this up? But in another part of FwG, it does say that we are making it up. We are making it up. We're making our own lives up as we go along. And our
Exactly. Yeah.
Perspective and what we say it is.
Yeah. 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 And that's coming from the fact that we are each creating our own reality.
Yes.
Into a collective co-creation of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. The thing that I like about this section of this chapter so far is just how, God talks about that there are no accidents. Everything, absolutely everything, leads to the next thing. Everything's connected and related, and there's a reason for everything, even if we don't necessarily recognize it.
Yes, no coincidences. And I find that exciting.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay, anything else? Bima.
Bima, are you there? Because Bima had her hand up.
No, we can't hear you, even though you're unmuted. Huh. Maybe put it in the chat. Let's see.
I think she's gone. She's coming back. Maybe.
I think she's dialing back
Okay.
in.
Okay. All right. Should I continue or should we wait?
Well, while we're waiting, I'd be curious to know what Joyce or Kirsten or Sarah have to say.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Still not? You hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I had to cut it down and open again. Yeah. Okay. I think I shared last time because last meeting we had was on Mother's Day in Sweden, wasn't it? Yeah. And that was a day my daughter passed away. I think I shared it last time. But it is still with me because this week has been very much around meeting with people around that and to consider and reflect upon it. And in 2 days, the 5th of June is the day of my father's passing away. But he was very young. He was only 45. I was 14. But I mean, that very close people pass away. You can't we cannot control that. It's something, death and birth and death are as close as sunrise and sunset. So we cannot, I mean, we it's unbelievable sometimes, but I am so deeply touched by the way I meet my daughter's situation and her children and how they can share with me. I don't know, I can't feel but respect and love for life. And I'm so grateful for what she did in her life. And I got a mail from her best friend the other day, and she tells how much my daughter influenced her life. She's doing what they were doing together, doing musicals and theater and all these things. And she's doing that with her children. But my own daughter's children don't have that kind of mother today. So they have missed out something very beautiful that my daughter gave to all the people around her, even to me. But I can't help it. I was at a graveyard yesterday, and I'm going to think, I'm 72. I don't know when my time is to go. I don't know where to put my ash, ash, what you call it, ash? Yeah. After I die, I don't know. Oh, should I use her graveyard? Because that's the only graveyard I feel very connected to. But it's so unreal that this body is going to die. But it is so natural. So I think it's very nice to read this. So thank you for coming into this field. I need that just now. It's beautiful because I feel sometimes crazy because I'm not, like that, because I feel love and gratefulness towards it, that I could follow the process so close. As I said last time, how many mothers look into their daughter's eyes when they die, as I could do. That's very, very rare. But yeah, I can't feel but love. So thank you for giving this opportunity to talk about it. I never talk to people about it, really.
Thank you for sharing, Bima. Okay, anybody else want to share? Joyce?
You're muted.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
I don't
Only
have,
if we want to hear you.
I'm very moved by what Bima just shared, because to me, I don't know why, but death is a very beautiful thing for me. I know it's painful for most people, and I don't know why. There is some pain, but the beauty far outweighs the pain, the awe, I wanted to say majesty. I don't know why. And to be close, as Bima said, to somebody who is leaving this body is incredibly beautiful. Just incredibly beautiful. And I have to say, I haven't been with someone that died that was in pain. And so I've been very fortunate. I don't know what it would feel like to be with somebody who was in pain. I don't know if it would affect me differently, in that I would feel more pain and it would stay with me and I wouldn't feel it was healed. I don't know. But birth and death are one to me, like Bima said, the sunrise and the sunset, they're no different. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you're
Joyce.
welcome.
It's nice to know that there are other people in the world that don't look at death the same way.
Good.
I don't look at death. I've never looked at death the same way. It's as most people, because I think because I was born awake, so I understand what's going on here at a level that most people don't, and so for me, it's just a part of the process, and I totally understand when Neil says, or when God says to Neil, there's no such thing as death. We don't die. The bodies may cease to function, but the spirit lives on.
Have you got an experience of speaking with someone as Neil was relating? This question is to Joyce and Linda.
Well, not so much like what Neil was relating, but I have experiences of, I guess people would call them ghosts, but I have had interactions with ghosts, or spirits that are not transitioned. The spirit's still in this, trying to live in this third dimensional world when in fact their body's gone. I've also had experience of specifically with the spirit of my mother, um, impacting and doing things in my life, in my physical life, like interfering in the 3D dimension. I don't know if that's the kind of thing you're asking about.
It's hard to hear you, Linda. You're breaking up.
Well, that might be the cell phone. I don't know.
It was about your mother interfering with.
Yeah, that's probably her interfering again.
Oh dear. I don't know about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm not saying anything. Go ahead, Joyce.
I was just going to say, my communication with the people in my life who have passed happens very infrequently. And as far as I know, experienced, it's one way, initiating, and then I will get something back. but I've never had somebody that's passed come to me in a dream or in a conversation. My children have, and it sounds very beautiful. But I have unfinished business with the people in my life who have passed on. And when that comes up and needs to be done, I'm very grateful that I can bring them into my heart to do the business with them. I don't know if you would consider that a conversation, but it's very profound for me. If that makes any sense.
Did you say that you see your children in dreams?
No, I'm sorry. My children talk about dreams they've had when their grandfather died or when their father died, or they see things. They have visions. And the communications are absolutely beautiful. They just make your heart feel so happy. They're there to help my children when they come in a way that is perfect for them in the moment. Absolutely perfect. I know my daughter doesn't really believe in this, but she knows her father talked to her. You know, after he had died, and gave her a very beautiful I don't know what to call it, a very beautiful happen, but she's very much here, but she doesn't tune into this part of herself right now.
I actually have another experience about this that I have not thought about so much, but it comes up now when you are talking about it. Can I share it? Yeah, and that was my eldest son. He's born 1974, and when he was 7, I was divorced from his father. We were never married, but we were very good friends, deeply friends, both of us. And we had spent the Christmas and New Year together, and he was on a journey with his big car, like, you know what you call this, truck, with a truck. And it was an Friday evening. I should go to sleep, and I couldn't sleep because someone was coming. I felt somebody has left the body, and I couldn't understand who it was. So, but I couldn't sleep. It felt so fun. His mother called me and told that he had passed away. He had been run over and killed by an accident. And for 1 week, every night, I was sitting there, and it was like he told me the feelings. He was in the room. I could touch him almost, and he told me how it felt, what it was about, and it was incredible. And I knew him very well. So, and after 1 week, he just left, and he never came back. And I remember that I didn't sleep. I stayed up because I wanted him to have someone to, if it was needed. So that's for about 5-6 days, I think it was, that it was especially in the night when I should go to sleep. So I think it can happen, that deep communication, that the people who live need someone. He was only 31 years old, so it's needed. And he had a daughter that was 4 months, because he had married and was divorced again. But anyway, it was a very strong feeling of being connected. So for me, it's real. I don't think so much about it, but you reminded me about this now. So I believe it is it's necessary to be present when you know somebody is leaving. Be present, because they might need to communicate somehow. And if we are present, somebody will be present for us when we live, I'm sure. We need each other over the borders of life and death. So thank you again. One thing more, my daughter-in-law's cousin's father took his life about 2 years ago. They found him hanging, and I know that woman, the daughter of it, and how she has been there, and how difficult it has been, but she had no choice but be there for him. So such things happened. There are so many stories. I have met so many dying people. I just want to say that I have met so many things. Friends who had committed suicide and died in cancer and so on. So many people, young people who have died in my life. So death is as natural as being born. Sorry for taking time, but I just felt my heart is with you.
I think one of the things that happens to us when people die, especially when they take their own lives, is we want them to have not done that. We want them to have, we want to be able to have had an opportunity to change their mind, or, you know, to talk to them, or some way to save them from what they did. And we have to remember what Neil teaches us, and God through Neil, is that everything in the moment is perfect. And so even though it doesn't feel perfect to us, that is our challenge. That is our pinnacle to climb, is in this life, is to get to that place where we can recognize that it's perfect, no matter what it looks like, no matter how it feels. And to stop resisting what life is offering. Because when we're in resistance, we're not learning, we're not growing.
I've got an experience about that which is very strange. My son had a friend who had the same birthday as him, and this boy killed himself. And I could understand why. And nobody would talk about it. And one day in meditation, his soul reached out to me and basically said, I'm in a bad way. So somehow, I don't know what the process was, but I helped him move somewhere else. And this was very, very unusual, because we're not allowed to help or do anything unless the soul actually asks for it. And I was requested this help, so I provided it. But it was very, very strange. Has anyone experienced anything like that?
I have. This is Nanette. I Some of you probably know this story, but I'm not going to tell the whole story. About 25 years ago, I was managing a restaurant, and one of the regular customers came in, and he sat down at the bar. It was prom night. There was all sorts of young people around, and he pulled out a gun, and he ended up shooting himself. And I went through several years of wondering if I'd been in a different place in the restaurant, or if I'd, something, but like Linda was saying, if there was something I could do that might have changed this outcome. And years later, I was up in a place called Lilydale, New York, and it's a little town of psychic. And I went in and saw this woman, and she said that this person was standing right behind me and wanted to apologize for taking part of me with him, and that was not his intention. And another question I'd asked very often is, why me? Why did I have to witness this? And in a voice, it wasn't, who knows, but the voice came through that said, you midwifed him into crossing over, which made me feel much, much better, because I still had issues, which in some degree today I still do. Like if I see a gun come out on a television show, I just cover my eyes. It's just instinct. But anyway, so that's, I hear you, Shavana.
Did that person leave once you accepted his apology? That was the man who shot himself, right?
Yeah. Yes. I think I'm going to say there's probably not a week that goes by where I don't think about it, because it's a very traumatizing situation. I don't sit around and think about it all day long, but I still think about him and the incident. But like I said, it's I feel now that he's crossed, that I feel like he's okay. He's on the other side. But I don't know. And other people that have experienced suicide situations, I'm not sure it's something you ever forget, but it might just be me. Over. I think that's a good idea. Shabana, do you want to do another prayer?
We thank you, God, for Neil's chapter 10, which has shown us how many people communicate with souls who have died. This is a powerful and valuable sharing, and we ask that the souls of those who are still wandering may be granted the peace they so richly deserve, because we're pulling our hearts and souls to send them love and rest. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. And it has been a very powerful call. And it must have been necessary or it wouldn't have happened. And thank you, Shabana, for the prayers and for the comments that everybody made. And Linda, thank you for reading. As usual, you do a beautiful job. And next week, we'll get together and we'll continue forward on our journey. I love you
Sounds
all.
good. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, so much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.